So, okay, we're going to do a little bit of an example here, guys. Okay. So imagine you guys are making a specifically divisive claim. Okay. Let's say pineapple on pizza. Hey, you guys like pineapple on pizza?
I'm pro on this one.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I'm staggered right now. I'm staggered.
Dang, man. The world is a chaotic place, and navigating it as a modern man can be tough. But don't worry. The Hart brothers are here to tackle masculinity one topic at a time to help out men just like you. So here we go, bros. This is Dang Man.
All right. Hey, bros. So, you ever been in an argument? Hell yeah, you have.
Yeah.
And you know what? Everybody wants to win an argument. I mean, you're obviously right. And the other person is either ignorant or they're an idiot or maybe they're just an evil human being. Right? Heck, maybe they're both ignorant and evil, which I think makes them a supervillain at that point. And woe to them. But regardless, in the end, the art of arguing or disagreeing is something that has become more volatile in recent history. Heck, if there's one thing that most people agree on, it's that people can't argue. So we've talked previously about debates, how to navigate being wrong and how to influence people in episodes of the past. But what if the mission was more about embracing the debate over winning? What if continued division is the greater of the two evils versus for someone who is navigating a career that at some point needs to make challenging decisions with high stakes, you're more than likely going to have to be able to debate something. So today we dig into the world of working with people again and explore how to argue, because whether you like it or not, there is nuance to the world and you're not always going to get your way. So let's jump into this and see how many fights we can pick in the comments. So this is Dang Man.
I'm Mike.
I'm James.
And I'm Tim. All right, guys. Well, I've got, like, we haven't recorded as a group in almost a month now. 'Cause
Dang,
we took some time off and we like preloaded some stuff. So lots happened since the last time. I've got 3 things on my list of stuff to banter about in our witty banter section of our outline.
Nice.
But so, okay, first topic, Father's Day happened in there. And James, you decided to have a birthday party for your daughter instead of Father's Day.
Whoa. What a dad.
Yep. Pretty much.
But it was at the most magical place on earth.
It was indeed. Yeah, we went to medieval times with Bridget's best friend, and they had a blast. It was her best friend's first time there, so she was very excited. They got the slushies in the fancy cup that lights up, you know.
Yeah.
It was a good time, and they got like one of the knights came over with like his joust, and gave the girls like the special ribbon. I don't know what it is.
Oh, yeah. They got to keep it.
Yeah, they got to keep it.
Wow.
So that was pretty exciting.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so did your knight win?
No, he got
Oh,
whooped.
man. Dang it.
The Red Knights. We had the Red Knight, and he got whooped. Yeah.
Was he the bad guy? Or
No.
was he
No,
he's just a regular old knight.
He was the weak knight for sure. Yeah. the lesser knight. Yeah.
The lesser knight.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
We call him Billy the Lesser.
Yeah. Pro tip about medieval times. I go to medieval times at least once a year, and I know the knight that's going to win. It's the same guy every single time, and this is the pro tip is he just changes what color he wears. From episode to episode. He just changes what color he's going to wear. So
okay.
But as soon as I see the guy, I'm like, well, shit, I'm out already. I spoiled the fun. So, but it's still fun to cheer on your knight.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
But so Mike and I got together with my buddy and we played Star Wars Rebellion.
Yeah.
Wasn't quite the Star Wars role-playing game we were trying to pull together, but we just ran out of time. But Rebellion, you missed out, James.
It was a lot of fun.
Mike, you and I, Mike, we were a tag team duo, and we lost.
Yeah. Empire kicked our ass.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. we got one of our planets was destroyed.
Yeah.
By the Death Star, and then it was just all downhill from there. It was literally like our base, wasn't it our base?
Wait,
destroyed?
No, I think he discovered our base, and like the entire empire was right there next to our planet. So like it was over.
Crappy draw at the beginning.
Yeah.
Is this like Risk?
Kind of.
Actually, kind of. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Risk, but the main premise is like you're either rebellion or you're the empire. And if you're the rebellion, you just have to survive.
Okay.
There's like and like the more kind of sabotagey things you do, that means the amount of time you have to survive gets reduced. And then as the empire, you are massive. Like you have like hundreds of troops out there compared to the rebellion, but your secret base is secret at the beginning. So it's kind of like Clue mixed with Risk.
Yeah, Clue and Risk.
All right.
But it was a good, we spent like 4 hours playing?
Yeah, it was probably 4 hours. Yeah, I thought it was a fun game.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it went by pretty quick though. So
nice.
So that was Father's Day. I mean, we had a pretty good time overall. So second thing on my list is I went to St. Louis. So drove down to St. Louis.
Get that Ted Drew's?
I did go to Ted Drew's. Yes.
Nice.
Got some frozen custard. They have their own shop now. Did you guys know
that?
No,
yeah, I saw that. We went last year. Yeah, we went down there.
Yeah. There's like the Ted Drew's proper.
Yep.
And then literally like a building on the other side of their main parking lots is now just owned by them as a gift shop where you can buy all sorts of Route 66 gear. So I got a Route 66, like specifically like a St. Louis-ish area themed print shirt, camp shirt, I think is the style of shirt, and then a Ted Drew's hat. So where it says Drew's on the top, upside down, because they turn stuff upside down. Yeah. So, but we did the city museum.
That's the best. That's my favorite thing in St. Louis, man.
So, first of all, my shoulder still sucks right now, so I can't crawl. And I thought I was going to die a couple times. I think they're going to have to extract me from something. So I just stopped going into things. And there was one time I told Shannon, you may not go in there to this like very spirally thing. And then she tried, and then she stopped and climbed back out and said, I shouldn't do this. But then Lucy was making her way up to like the next floor. So we had to like bolt it up the stairs to try to catch up with her. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, we did that. City Museum's good. So James, if you haven't been there with the girls, it is a good time. So
all right.
I think Shannon and Lucy said we should bring you guys down there.
Yeah, that would be fun. The girls are a great age for that place too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're gonna keep just saying to yourself like, is this actually safe?
Yeah. The answer is no. There is no part of it that's safe. Halfway through the day, we had to buy Lucy a hard hat. So it's probably like a bump cap. It's not actually a hard hat. And then it has the miner's light on it because it's pitch black in little areas she wants to climb through.
Really?
So, yeah. Those were the areas where Shannon was climbing through. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to follow you.
Yeah.
So, and then we did Grant's farm. So Ulysses S. Grant, who I thought was from Galena, Illinois, owned a farm outside of St. Louis. So I think he was just
he worked in Galena. Oh, maybe it was where his dad was from, and they had a tanning shop in Galena.
Like a tannery.
Yeah, a tannery.
Yeah. Not like lighted beds. Yeah.
No. Not a tanning salon. He was doling out them UV rays back in 1860.
U.S. Grant says, wear your sunscreen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. So, we went to his farm, and a couple fun stories from the farm. So I showed you guys, I sent you pictures. It's operated by Anheuser-Busch. So you can go see the Clydesdales, and then there's like a whole beer garden area where you literally get free beer, but you have to pay for the food. So I got my 2 free beers. And and I had to pay for my brat. So, but the brat came with kraut, and they had some mustard and stuff like that. So it was an okay brat, and it's staggering the amount of beer brands though that Anheuser-Busch owns.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. So but they had like pretty much everything either on tap or in a bottle or can that you could get there for free. So
that's weird. Cool. That's like the opposite of some places in Europe that do like free food. Like if you come and buy drinks, they'll just give you free food all night to keep you drinking.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of that. That's weird.
Yeah, not in St. Louis, folks. So, and the second part was, so it's like a petting zoo. So we fed goats with like baby bottles and stuff like that. But they have this like bird cage. It's like the size of like the room I'm in right now, but it's just full of parakeets. And you get these little sticks, and they'd have like bird seed on the stick, like with peanut butter or some type of something. And you'd hold it up, and they would come and fly and land on your finger or something like that, and munch on the bird seed. But then it turned Alfred Hitchcock real quick, and I had so many birds on me. I was at one point, I just started to squat down, and this other guy with long hair, he just looks at me and goes, "Dude, you have too many birds on you." I was like, "I know, bro, this sucks." And I was like, "Lucy, do you want to leave now?" She's like, "No, I gotta feed these birds still," because she's down low enough where they wouldn't land on her. But they were crawling, like landing on my glasses. I had no joke, like 20 birds on me at one point. And it got pretty scary pretty quick. So
you have too many birds on you.
Yeah, dude, you have too many birds on you. And then last but not least, last night, my buddy, his brother, and I decided we need to have carve out time for men to get together to do stuff, as you should, right? So we decided we were going to go do something, and they proposed one of the most what I would say deviates from my core identity the most, but also there's a little bit of like Venn diagram overlap. So we went to see the New Japan pro wrestlers.
Whoa.
Pro wrestling.
All
so
right.
we went to see professional wrestling last night. It is the New Japan, or New Japanese, I think it's New Japan. Pro Wrestling Association is from Japan, but they have non-Japanese people also wrestling. So it is exactly what you would think that it would be like. Okay. So it was at the Now Arena in Hoffman Estates.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we get there, and we get to our seats. It's a bigger-ish arena. It's a pretty good size, probably like 10,000 people could fit in there. But it was like third full, I guess. But there's like the wrestling ring, just like you'd expect from the Hulk Hogan professional wrestling era.
Roddy butt.
Whoa, you're dating yourself there.
I mean, I haven't watched wrestling since that era, probably.
Yeah.
But then they had it. Here's what I'll say: the Japanese professional wrestling is a lot like American professional wrestling, except they're not as good at acting. So all the like pulled punches and stuff like that just looked like they were pushing their forearms into their face. At velocity is what I'll say. But they are very good at slapping too.
Yes.
So now they would sit there, and it would be like a shtick almost, where they would reel back and just slap each other in the chest. Like bare-chested men out there slapping each other, and you could hear it. It would like the noise would like fill the arena. Yes, with this pop. So the New Japan Pro Wrestling event last night was it wasn't bad. I mean, it was probably not something I would go see again. But have you guys ever seen a professional wrestling event like that? Have you ever been to one?
No, not in person. No.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
It's probably worth once in your life to go see something like that. It is a spectacle to behold. So, I mean, it's not like a WWE or something like that. So for my buddy's brother, I guess, follows it pretty closely, and he's like, yeah, they lost all their good wrestlers to AEW wrestling, and now they're kind of like reforming. So like they're kind of not as good as they used to be, but it wasn't bad. So
Sweet.
So that's what I've been up to since we've been off.
Dang.
You guys have any highlights? From your
Nothing
time
good.
away?
No, I'll
don't know
tell
if
you
you
next
can-
time. We're going to see Noah Khan at Wrigley Field on Wednesday, so I'll have a report
Ooh,
next time
nice.
for you.
Oh
on
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I think our Cubs game is around the time we recorded next too, when we go see the Cubs versus
Yeah.
Yankees. So
Yeah, it's the 31st. I'm in some hot water for that, but that's also our wedding anniversary.
that's okay.
But you know
We'll be
what,
home
Kelsey?
before dinner.
Yeah, and Kelsey is actually going to have the day to herself. The girls are going to your house, Tim, if you didn't know that.
That's right. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I did know that.
Yeah, so they're doing a sleepover at your house. And so that way Kelsey has all day to herself. And then I'll be home by dinner. So,
Cool.
Whew.
Cool.
yeah, and then
Nice,
my
nice.
other big highlight, not fun. I don't know if you can hear that weird whining noise in the background. You probably can. No? Okay. Well, good. Our furnace and AC unit took a crap.
Oh,
Yeah.
So the company came out. It's got a Band-Aid right now. It's currently functioning, but yeah, I'm replacing the AC, the furnace. I have to put a chimney liner in because our house is 126 years old.
Yep.
So, you know, I got a home equity loan now to the tune of about $17,000.
Yep.
dang.
Yeah.
But I guess it'll be good in
Man.
the long run. At least we had home equity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I went through that same thing last fall, James,
Yeah.
with mine. When
I
walked into
remember.
the
I
house
remember.
with the ceiling that was collapsing because the the condensate pump stopped working in the attic. So yeah. We also after replacing it, we're like, oh, there's not a lot of AC in the upstairs. And so the guy comes out, we call him out, that put an AC system in last fall. I thought maybe they just didn't hook it up correctly.
Yeah.
And he's like, nah, everything's hooked up good. You just have these flex pipes, and we had our insulation redone a couple of years ago too. He's like, they blew in so much insulation, it collapsed your flex pipes.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even want to do that job. He's like, no, we're not even going to quote you on it. That job's too hard. We're not going to do it.
What?
What?
So I'm like, well,
God.
I guess I got to buy some 10-inch insulated
Yeah, flex pipe.
Flex pipe.
piping and go up there and redo
Get
it at some
yourself
point.
dirty.
But that is something I'm going to wait until it cools off a little bit before I go crawling around
yeah.
up in the attic in the
Yeah.
summer. So, all right. Well, yeah, we'll see what other stories we have for next time. But for today, I've got a pretty brief internet bullshit since we had a little bit of time here. So, James, I'm going to steal this because you sent it to us. Was it yesterday? Maybe 2 days ago? Yeah, 2 days ago.
Oh, yes.
So we
is wild.
we hail from Boone County. So this isn't quite internet bullshit, but it is bullshit you can find on the internet.
It's
So
insane. Yeah.
And we are not a true crime podcast, but today we are, folks. Today we are. So beep, 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 beep. The ticker came across July 9th from, this is from WTVO Channel 17 News. Court documents. Former Boone County coroner kept skull as, quote, trophy. What? As soon as I saw this, I was like, I'm pretty sure I've heard this story before, but not in the context of our home county. So yeah, back in 1977, a woman by the name of Louise Betts was raped and murdered by a guy named Curtis Brownell. Brownell is still alive, according to this, but he remains incarcerated. So, however, like it says here, when investigators recovered Betts's body, one critical piece of evidence was missing: her skull. So where was that skull? That's right, folks. It was kept by then Boone County coroner Wesley Highland as a personal trophy.
Yeah.
So on top of that, if you read through this, hers was one of 3 total skulls
that
this guy had. Now this guy's died, but back in 2016, I think it was when he died. Yeah, the coroner died in 2016. And I mean, you can read through the article through this website, but what I find interesting is the other 2 skulls have not been identified. But then the Betts family tried to essentially sue the government.
Yeah, sue the county.
Yeah, sue the county based on the 14th Amendment is what they said. So I did look up the 14th Amendment. So for folks who don't know about the 14th Amendment, basically this is like the government shall not deprive a person of life, liberty, or property without due process. So there's other sections in there, but I couldn't find that they had any bearing on coroner stole your loved one's bones. So on that tangent, I will say we tried to explain to Lucy why this was bad, and she was like, "Why is that bad that you would steal somebody's bones?" And I was like, "I'm pretty sure my child is going to be an evil person someday, or she's just going through a phase,
or she might be a coroner someday. You never know.
She might be a coroner someday." No,
that's not bad. That's not a bad gig, you know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But the worst part about that is they lost the suit on like a technicality.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally.
Right. So the legal argument was you can't do that. But they were like, well, the government didn't do it. The coroner did it of his own volition. So let's go back up here. So the coroner, Wesley Highland, was the guy who basically like he stole these people's skulls, kept them in his house, and they were like, well, I don't know where the line is between are you acting as an individual or as a representative of the county. But regardless, they appealed it. It went up to appeals court. The appeals court upheld the original verdict, I guess, that they dismissed the lawsuit. So that sucks.
Yeah.
You had this family member murdered back in the late 70s, and then come to find out literally, what was it, 2022 is when the family wasn't informed until 2022 that her skull had been removed and retained. So
what was the skull doing from 2016 to 2022?
Yeah. There's just like
it's just sitting in a back room.
Right. I've often thought about like eventually I'm going to get this, redo my office here. I want to get a bookshelf, and I would thought about like, I should put some like a skull, like a deer skull or like a coyote skull or something like that, and like, paint it to look cool as just a decoration. And I know there are people out there who collect bones and stuff like that as a thing. It's not my thing, but I don't necessarily judge them. But like, dude, your job was to be a coroner and you stole somebody's remains. So I think you crossed the line.
So wild.
Yeah. He didn't just cross it, like he dove over it head over heel.
Yeah. So the internet bullshit for the week is basically, when you die, I don't know what's going to happen to your skull, but don't let your coroner steal it. So that being said, if you have municipal elections coming up later this year, best look into who you're voting for a coroner.
That's right.
So let's get into the meat of this episode here. So personally, I love this type of episode. Every once in a while, I have to like do these kind of give me a research break episode, but partially I love them because I get to kind of impart some wisdom that I've gained over the years, and partially because I can say a lot of things, and I don't really need to worry about it being 100% correct. It's just my opinion. No bibliography here, folks, though I will try to cite some sources along the way when I can. I was just talking about this, but my daughter is at this age right now. You guys also have daughters who have experienced the 7 to 8 year old age range.
Yep.
So I think at least this is an age-related issue, but she is snarky as hell and will say something just so that she can feel the gratification of being right. Those like I told you so moments is what she does. And Jesus Christ, does that get under my skin? Like I should not have to endure this wrath of my child. So I'm pretty sure as dads who have older kids, okay, you guys have older kids out there, can you tell me, is this just a phase? Or is this just my daughter's, like, budding personality coming to light?
I don't know, man. Wait till they're teenagers. There's a lot of snark in my house these days.
Yeah.
They gang up on you, man.
Well, that's why I only have one.
Yeah, so. That's a good move.
Yeah. You're still outnumbered. Mm-hmm.
It is true. It is true. Yeah. Now, for the non-dads out there, and I'm pretty sure I speak on behalf of all dads when I say this, I am constantly in fear that something we are or are not doing as parents are condemning our kid to become essentially the girl version of Skeletor. Like, just absolute nightmare. So regardless, in my wisdom as a father, I usually respond with something like, Lucy, that hurt my feelings that you said that. Was that worth it to say that if it hurt my feelings? And you know what I call that? That's what I call a checkmate, bros. Yeah, daddy wins that round. So no episode of Bluey is going to teach you that one, bro. This one's on us. This one's on us. We pale in comparison to Bluey's dad. Yeah. So as we get into this, I'm going to pull quite a bit from the book Crucial Conversations by Patterson, Granny, McMillan, and Switzler. You can find more of their work through the Vital Smarts, which is where we also pulled some of our materials from our episode on influence. So I also want to talk a bit about other context to consider when it comes to having productive conflict or debate, and then wrap up with why this is important as a skill, and that can help you connect with people versus driving them further apart. So for an example of someone who is an expert at this type of work, I would always steer people towards Jessica Tarlov. You guys know Jessica Tarlov?
Yeah.
Okay. She has a new book coming out later this year titled I Disagree, Winning Arguments Without Losing Friends, that specifically tackles the same topic. As the lone Democratic strategist and commentator on The Five, she has become a practiced expert in this specific skill set. I think it's important. Yeah, it might be a stretch.
No, I just mean that. Yeah. I mean, I guess you would become a practiced expert in this specific skill set if you had that job. Yeah.
I think it's important when you look at her behavior in clips, which you can find out there. Go look up some Jess Tarlov clips from The Five. While she has some pretty solid blows that she lands in these debates, she does it both respectfully and in the most professional way without undermining her confidence and authority in what she is trying to communicate. Also, keep in mind that if she was an awful person to the rest of her obviously flawed co-hosts, she would have been canned a long time ago. I mean, if I had to constantly defend human decency against Jesse Waters, I'd probably punch somebody by now.
Yeah.
So, as you're thinking about how this plays out, keep her in mind as the person to emulate. All right. So, at the root of this is the basic belief that I want you to hold on to. This is kind of the thread that goes through this entire episode. That is, if you're going to be successful at life as an aggregate whole, you can't win every argument. So I want us all to be grounded in that debate first. So I find this sometimes hard to articulate. So how would you guys articulate this? Like if you had to talk to somebody about that winning comes sometimes at the cost that is too high, how do you make that claim?
Yeah, it's tough. I think a lot of times we don't necessarily, I mean, this is myself speaking. Once again, I can say I don't have to be 100% right. This is my opinion. Mm-hmm. I think maybe sometimes we don't care really deeply about the people that we're disagreeing with, or we demonize them maybe in our mind. And so we kind of, I don't know, like we kind of get some relish or some joy out of beating that person at this argument. Sure. And I don't know. I think sometimes that's warranted, actually, but we have to, like, I think of at work when I have disagreements with people at work, like I have to be able to work with this person next week. Yeah. Like I have to be able to get stuff done with this person. And that's like one way to humanize yourself, I guess, is to like be willing to concede a point, that the other side has made. Like it builds goodwill, which we'll talk about all this stuff. But I think that, I don't know, that's my mental babble on that question.
Sure.
I mean, I love to win. So this one, like, I don't know, like as much as I love to win arguments, like it all, like, I think when it comes to like things at work, like sometimes it is valuable too, to just be like, oh shit, like you're right, and I think that that's okay. But like, I think what you were alluding to earlier, Mike, was like, sometimes I think it is important to just win, because maybe that's whatever you're trying to win is just because it's the higher ground. And maybe morally you think in your body, you believe that your stance on whatever you're arguing about is like the moral high ground. And I think that that's important to hold on to that if it's your moral high ground, right? Regardless of who wins that argument, or if you just can't come to a conclusion there. I held on to my moral high ground. You held on to yours. Agree to disagree. See you later.
Yeah, I often think about things like, so there are probably two things. One is there's plenty of arguments I've had with either Shannon or Lucy where it's just like, you know what? I'm good. I'm just done with the argument at this point. And like, there's even if I am right at this point in time, like, I just don't want to have to live with the repercussions of being right in the argument. Right. Yeah. So I think that's like the easiest case study for how to make this claim. The other one, it's to your point, Mike, is like, I tend to, part of my core job responsibility is to go observe other managers and then critique them and then coach them. Right. And what I tell people a lot is it is very easy to point out somebody else's flaws, but it is very difficult to help them overcome those flaws after the fact. And so when I started doing this work, I kept finding myself essentially like, you guys suck, stop doing this type of thing. And that was kind of the message I would send, right? And then it would turn into some type of argument, stuff like that. So, but what I found was at the end of the day, when I'm trying to either influence somebody or get them to change some type of behavior, it's more anchored to like, how do I help this person take one step? Like I know what the ideal should look like. I know what the behavior should look like, or something like that, or the way that they should be working should look like this. But getting them there is a whole lot harder than just telling them that what they're doing is wrong.
Right.
So you make concessions in the the spirit of progress, essentially.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, with that being said, I want to dive into three things that I found extremely important when I read through the book Crucial Conversations. And be honest, these all made a ton of sense. So the first is what I think that I'm remembering this correctly, they call it the pool of shared meaning. So it's like a hot tub. So it's going to be a nice hot tub. So again, I don't think this is groundbreaking at all, but it is important for us to consider as we get into the other two elements from the book that I'll talk about in just a second. What this is essentially trying to say is you're supposed to find common ground. Whenever you're getting into like this heated conversation or debate, you have to find some type of common ground. So I want your guys' opinion here. Why is that type of thing important, specifically in an argument or debate? Try to like find some common ground first.
Well, actually, I'm going to go with what's maybe not like what first comes to mind, but a thing that I think maybe gets looked over that I think is really important about this phase of an argument, which is you have to define your terms. You have to define like what things mean in your argument. And so if you can find commonality in like the definition of the problem, even, can we agree that we're talking about the same problem? Like, I think finding just even, we can, I think probably what you're getting at here, Tim, is like, common ground like builds goodwill between you two, right? If you're arguing, like you can find a couple things that you do agree on, then it helps you like move forward with the things you don't. I think that's probably the most visible answer to that question. That's the easiest answer to that question. But I think what's maybe a part that people overlook in that is like defining your terms, defining what the problem is when you make a claim, like defining your claim specifically, so that you actually agree on what you're talking about.
Sure.
That makes sense.
No, I agree 100%. I think finding that common ground up front is really important, right? Because that gives you like a foundation on like, all right, we agree on A and B, but why can't we see eye to eye on what I think is C and what you think is C, right? And I think, thinking about like work or even like the household and the family, like we have a common goal to meet an end.
Mm-hmm.
So our common goal is the same, but the direction to get to that goal is maybe different. And sometimes I think that's totally okay. But that's hard. Even like for me, like I'm going to do it a certain way. I'm going to do things a certain way to get to my goal. And someone else is going to do that differently. And I'm going to look at him and be like, well, you're an idiot, you know, because you should have done it my way because my way is better than yours. And I think being able to see that and recognize that is important, right? And is also really hard. And I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm just saying that that's something that I've noticed in myself is like, I need to be the type of leader that says, here's our goal. Here's the foundation I've given you to meet that goal. This space in between, it might look different, and that's okay. And that's hard, right? To me, that's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think the interesting thing about this, the way they frame it up in the book, is it can both be like the fundamental aspects of the maybe debate you're having, right? That there may be elements within the debate that we can agree upon, or it may be the outcome we're both trying to achieve, the same outcome.
Yeah.
Right. But I think regardless, this ultimately is the first priority. Like you need to establish this. To your point, like it's almost like these are the parameters within which we can actually move forward, right? Without that, we're just slinging arrows at each other, right?
Yeah.
So I think it makes a lot of sense when you think about establishing what your objective ultimately is. So we'll get into a framework in just a second that actually illustrates the different types of arguments. But I think this is helpful in two ways specifically. First is that it helps to frame up exactly what you're arguing over by agreeing on the things that are not part of the debate. I've found so many times that I'm like 15 minutes into an argument with someone at work, and we'll both look at each other and say, hey, we're saying the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that this is true for a lot of people out there, but it's important to set the boundaries on this kind of mental playing field. The second major benefit of this is that it gives you an anchor, some semblance of rationale that you can continue to go back to for both you and the other person. So there is ultimately some comfort that you can provide to the other person to continue to refer back to something that they agree with you on. Starting a sentence with, while I agree with you on this, I think it falls apart for me in this way. That feels a whole lot different than, yeah, but your argument falls apart with this, right? So you guys see the difference between those two approaches?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So this couples directly with the second major thing from the book, that the objective of one of these heated conversations is ultimately to keep people in that aforementioned pool of shared meaning. So it's a priority to keep people in the pool with the intent of keeping the dialogue flowing, and that is your primary focus. So think of that. The objective of your argument is to maintain safety in the conversation versus sinking the ship. And this is the hardest part for what I see specifically happening in today's current political climate. I constantly hear the statement about building a bigger tent, which is exactly what I believe is needed and the equivalent of the pool of shared meaning. Yet we continue to see, at least online, the highlighting of division over collaboration. This is also at the core of what we are trying to do with this podcast. At both ends of the extremes, men have both felt that they should be ashamed of the things that make them feel masculine and why aggression and the manosphere are attractive. There is space for people to talk and to find the pool of shared meaning, but only if we intentionally carve out that space where dialogue and the pursuit of cohabitation is the goal. The last thing I'll share from the book, and you should go read this book because it is one I always steer new leaders towards, and I am leaving quite a bit of content out of this outline. But that last thing is this concept that they call the fool's choice. So the easiest way to define the fool's choice is how they define the way to avoid it in your debates. They avoid what they call or statements and try to find the and statements. They specifically talk about rewriting options of your way or my way with a more difficult your way and my way solution. And to be honest, we won't always be able to find a way forward that is always able to provide a 100% solution for both sides of the argument. But there are two things that I think are important to this side of the debate. First is that this gives us a better permission structure for compromise. If I distill what I actually want out of my argument, and it's aligned with the shared meaning or intent, maybe the way I go about that can be malleable. Kind of to your point earlier, James, the path can be whatever it is, as long as the outcome is what we're looking for. And second, the idea of compromise isn't always the first thing that comes to mind. A lot of times, what two different people are trying to achieve aren't overlapping as exact opposites. They're usually compartmentalized, but a lot of assumptions about how something will play out is what leads someone to shoot down your stance. So, I'm curious if you guys have an example of an argument where both parties could find a solution by kind of like compartmentalizing, I want this and you want that, as unique problems versus solving them together. So how can we solve them as distinctly different problems versus one big problem statement? I don't know if you've gone through this before or not.
Couldn't think of one here, Tim. I'm curious what you got for us, because this one. I don't have an example for you.
That's a super complex question.
A little bit suspicious right now. You've got to convince me.
Yeah. So I think the one for me, this is where I get into. This is where I'm going to get a little bit of heat here, I'm sure, from some folks in the political world. But I go back to like the most divisive one right now is like Israel and Gaza, and ultimately we've actually spoken about this briefly before. And my stance on this is like, there's bad dudes doing bad shit to good people. And if you look at it that way versus distinctly between I either am pro-Israel or pro-Palestinian, like that's where the problem starts to exist for people, right? But if I look at it as like, why can't I be pro-Israel people, Israel, like the pro-people and pro-Palestinian people? Like I like all the people. I don't like the bad guys, right? So that's where like I've seen things turn into almost like, because we take an aggregate problem statement and oversimplify it versus looking at them as unique problem statements that can be solved, that's where like things start to fall apart for me specifically. So I don't know if that analogy lands.
I don't find it yet. Like I get the two sides, but I don't see what each side wants that they could get. Like, what's the compromise here? I don't see a compromise.
I 100% agree with like, I mean, this is a quagmire of a situation.
I thought you were going to solve Mideast peace
I'm not
for us.
I'm going to solve Mideast peace.
Because I think my gut reaction here is that like, there are some arguments that you got to fucking win on. Like, like it comes down to fists at some point, you know, and there are some you don't compromise with Nazis, you know?
I don't know.
Shit
out of Nazis.
That's where I'm still struggling to like figure out, you know, some of this compromise stuff, like, because I definitely think compromise is needed. Definitely agree that like I brought a couple books like that I've recently read just in case I could think of things like, and I won't go into the books, but like I have this one, Collaborating with the Enemy: How to Work with People You Don't Agree With or Like or Trust. Adam Kahane, I don't know how you pronounce his last name, cool. But that's a great book. And like he goes through in that book talking about how he worked with, he has a lot more experience in Africa, but you know, like people who have experienced genocide and they're like working to reconcile with, you know, the government or whatever people. And so I'm very interested in that problem. And I don't know how we solve compromises that are like that deeply entrenched.
Yeah.
You know,
I think the point I'm trying to make is like, when we look at, you know, a lot of this today's episode is probably like more politically coded, is what I'll say. But like the idea of, so if I talk about like universal healthcare, let's say, right, as an example, like I don't think that anybody out there, any sane American, would say I like paying for healthcare, right?
Sure.
And it's like, okay, that's something we can all agree on, right? But then when you get into like the method to make that come to life, if I start to parse out like how you make it happen,
Mm-hmm.
and I start to see problems within that as uniquely different problem statements instead of like a large aggregate problem, right? Because I mean, obviously, there have been many attempts at trying to pass some type of universal health care, right? Obamacare being the closest thing we've seen so far, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the reasons why it hasn't happened are usually some other problem statement that gets thrown in there. It's like, well, we're trying to make sure that capitalism is still the way of the land, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure we can still have capitalism and universal health care. Like many places in Europe have figured this out, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay.
So it's like,
no, that one does seem like a problem that we should be able to solve with this method. 100% agree with you there.
Yeah, and it may not be all encompassing either, right? But all right. Well, it's regardless, like to put a bow on this part of the book, Crucial Conversations, as part of this outline. Here's the three things that I pulled. I thought I've found super helpful, at least for the way I navigate things at work specifically. First is you got to find common ground. Okay, that's that pool of shared meaning. Second is your priority is about keeping the conversation going by making sure that pool of shared meaning is both safe and inviting. And then 3, you don't fall into the trap of the fool's choice. More often than not, those your way or my way situations can be solved by turning them into more complex your way and my way problem statements. Okay. Not solving the Middle East peace crisis with this one. Okay. But if you want to know what you're going to eat for lunch, then you guys can debate it that way. So, all right. Well, let's switch gears slightly and talk about a couple different other foundational elements of an argument that I found interesting in my research. Okay. Got a few different models we'll go through. The first of which is called Graham's hierarchy of disagreement. It's a very cordial way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay. This comes from a guy by the name of Paul Graham and was published in an article titled How to Disagree in 2008 and came to be as Graham tried to categorize the types of arguments in light of what he saw playing out online. Can you imagine what a nightmare research paper that would have been?
Yeah.
So he specifically said this. He said, the most obvious advantage of classifying the forms of disagreement is that it will help people to evaluate what they read. In particular, it will help them to see through intellectually dishonest arguments. An eloquent speaker or writer can give the impression of vanquishing an opponent merely by using forceful words. In fact, that is probably the defining quality of a demagogue. By giving names to the different forms of disagreement, we give critical readers a pin for popping such balloons. So, like a lot of hierarchical models you find in that kind of stacked pyramid approach, it lends a framework, but it is something that would ultimately need to be practiced in order to use it in a tangible way. So, here's a quick rundown of the hierarchy of disagreement. Okay, so at the base level here, at the bottom of the pyramid, is the worst, most ineffective form of argument that is level 0 on their scale. Yeah. Is just what they call name calling. Okay. Where it's not really about the point being made, but simply calling someone an asshat as a sort of emotional response to a statement being made. Okay.
Really? Do people use this? I never hear anybody do this.
No.
That's weird.
So this is where our government's at today. All right.
Yeah. Starting from literal ground zero.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Nowhere to go but up.
For the most part, I think some of them can no longer articulate it if you are Republican senators who may or may not be dead right now. So, but we should know the answer to those questions by the time this episode comes out, hopefully. So.
They talked to him for 20 minutes.
Yeah. So you go up a level in this pyramid, and that is Okay, it's slightly better, but this is level 1, where it is basically just you add a bit of context to the name calling. So this level is what he called ad hominem, which is defined, again, by no real argument being made, but instead just attacking the person. The main difference between level 0 and level 1 is that at least there is context to the attack being made. Okay, so still quite silly at the bottom of this chart. Okay, you can move up to level 2. Okay, so this is where they respond to your tone. Again, this is not really even touching the substance of the argument, but just focusing on the tone that you're using. So, which, as Graham points out in his paper, is easy to misinterpret in an age where text and emoji-based slings and arrows cannot convey the tone of the speaker. So you have no freaking idea what the tone was, right, but you're being attacked for your tone. Okay, next level, or next on the list is level 3, which is contradiction. Okay, so this is the first time in Graham's model that the person arguing against the case at least even acknowledges the case being made. But without any supporting evidence, they just state their opposition. Okay? This is like team sports, right? Like, you're on that team, I'm on my team. I don't like you, so I'm just going to disagree with you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. As you move up, the last few levels are higher and more informed arguments, with level 4 being a counter argument where there is a contradiction with reasoning and supporting evidence. Level 5 is what's called refutation, where a specific mistake is being presented and a reasonable explanation is made for why it is wrong. However, this may not be the core of the argument, but just a simple mistake. And the case can be made that a single mistake is the reason you should refute the entirety of the remainder of the argument. Okay. And lastly, level 6, the best type of argument is what they call refuting the central point. Okay, so the level 5 and level 6 can get a little confusing. So for me to articulate the difference, he describes it like this. Even as high as DH5, that's level 5, we still sometimes see deliberate dishonesty, as when someone picks out minor points of an argument and refutes those. Sometimes the spirit in which this is done makes it more of a sophisticated form of ad hominem than actual refutation. For example, correcting someone's grammar or harping on minor mistakes in names or numbers. Unless the opposing argument actually depends on such things, the only purpose of correcting them is to discredit one's opponent. Truly refuting something requires one to refute its central point, or at least one of them, and that means one has to commit explicitly to what the central point is. So I think of like the online arguments where like people correct grammar errors, or like the your, right? Your Y-O-U-R versus Y-O-U-R-E, right?
It's so hard for me not to do that to people every time I see it.
But it's so infuriating where it's like, I get it. I made a mistake on my punctuation or my grammar, but that does not warrant your counter argument. So for folks listening, I will actually try to post a link to the original article in the description if you want to read it yourself. So, but that's at paulgraham.com/disagreement. So I think why I wanted to add this to today's discussion was because it acknowledges that there are different starting points for how you would address someone who is arguing against you. There will always be trolls out there you can't win over. But if you want to try to actually change someone's mind, you have to understand that the tactic will change based on the type of disagreement level in that chart. So, okay, we're going to do a little bit of an example here, guys, okay? So imagine you guys are making a specifically divisive claim, okay? Let's say pineapple on pizza. Okay, you guys like pineapple on pizza?
I'm pro on this one.
Gosh. It's unbelievable. I'm staggered right now. I'm staggered. Yeah. Okay. So you're trying to convince somebody that pineapple on pizza is the right choice. Okay. Okay, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay. So, or James, if you have an opinion on this as well. Okay. So one of the people you're trying to convince is at a level 4. Okay. So level 4, that is where there is a contradiction with reasoning and supporting evidence. Okay. So there's contradicting it. And then there's somebody else who is a level 2 where they just got like an emotional response to your hot take on pineapple on pizza. So how would you respond to each of them differently? So let's start with the number 4. So this person actually has scientific evidence that pineapple on pizza is the worst.
I feel like that's going to be you, Tim. Yeah, as the
Quite
chef
possibly.
in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a funny example because like it is just a silly problem. But that aside, like I think if somebody approaches you at a level 4 where there's at least some acknowledgement of the actual problem or disagreement, like I would honor that. Like I would start with that. Like I would start with I don't know, with whatever, I guess, data or, whatever corroborating evidence they've brought on their side of it. Like I would start by examining what they've brought. Like, let's take a look at that, see if it actually does refute the point, or if we're at level 4 here and we're still kind of missing some actual understanding of the problem, I think if somebody's at a level 4, I'm willing to have a conversation with them. So like,
Sure.
let's have the conversation. Whereas I think if somebody's at a level 2, I'm not sure it's worth my time yet to actually have this conversation with them. That's how I would respond differently, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's interesting because like the level 2, like I mean, we've talked a bit before about how you've tried to like argue with people online, Mike, with like local politics and stuff like that, and how like it's damn near impossible because they just like want to, just on principle, they will just disagree with you and start calling you names, right?
Yeah.
So
it's
I
all
think it's
0,
hard.
1, and 2.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think that's it's an interesting challenge that I think I would want to try to like go down someday to try to be like, how do you actually engage with that person, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's that book that you were kind of referencing there, Mike. But like, how do you get somebody at that level? Like, you basically have to like move them out of this emotional response zone they're having. And like disrupt that and show some type of connection, or like, no, I want like, let's do this and we're going to debate this and we're going to be civil about it. And then like, even that though, I think can come off as like, no, they're not prepared to have the argument.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I think that's why
difficult.
I think you're right. Like we can have those conversations with those people at that level, and we should. I think that comes back to like why defining the problem or the focal point of your argument is so important, because if they're just going to keep yelling at you and calling you names, like at least you can return to the main point that you were trying to make and say like, make the argument that what they're, make it clear that what they're responding with has no bearing on the central point of our argument. Like, have you guys seen people do this online? Like, if you ever run across reels of like Dean Withers or Parker, I think it's Parker Malloy. I'm not totally sure if that's his correct last name, but there are some debaters I found online that are really, really good at this specific kind of question. And that's what they do. Like, keep coming back to the original point that you were trying to debate.
Right.
Yeah. And I think what I find interesting about that category of individual is my earlier comments around like, I don't think they're capable of entering into the argument at that time is almost like, I think this is very much like a thing that I've stumbled upon with men specifically, where like they don't necessarily have the language to articulate like an emotion that they're feeling, or like kids, right? They just know like I'm mad or like I'm upset about something, but they don't know why or something like that. Sure. And so, and it brings up an interesting thing that I came across at work. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago now. So in a lot of like leadership roles, there's this category of leadership called servant leadership. Okay. Yeah. It's a really simple concept where it's like, you take your hierarchical model of, your lowest level employee is at the bottom of the pyramid and your CEO is at the top, right? And they say, well, no, you flip it over and everybody at the top is actually the most important person, right? The person who screws the thing together and assembles this part is the only person who brings value to the organization, right? Everybody else just supports that person. Right. But part of me was like, well, I didn't read that book at the time. And I remember thinking about, okay, I can be a good servant leader. I'm going to go around, I'm going to help people do their things, right? And I screwed up a lot in that moment, being like, well, I'm just overwhelmed now with like, I'm just become a task doer for all of my people, right? Yep. And it all came down to like, I didn't know how to actually articulate the thing. So what I've found is, well, I guess maybe a potential way out in this situation, and this kind of gets into the next model that I want to bring up, is like, would you even entertain, maybe this is a question for you guys, if you had to debate somebody, we'll go back to pineapple on pizza, and you had facts and figures there, Mike, to go along with why it's so good. And you were like, no, I actually want to entertain a debate with you, but they hadn't done research. Like, would you entertain helping them do that research?
No, that's a good question. I mean, as somebody who wants to win an argument, yes, because selfishly, then I can direct their research, right? I have an advantage then.
Sure.
But
you can
I get what
apply
you're
your
saying.
bias to the research.
Yeah. And I'm not saying I would go, like I would mislead them, but I would lead them to the sources that I think are the most correct, like, and most bearing on the point that we're discussing. I get to choose the sources then. But I get what you're saying though, Tim, like if you're going to come and argue with me, I expect you to have prepared yourself to argue with me. Like, I expect you to be a good faith opponent. Which is another reason I think it's tough to like have any meaningful discussion, is because our opponents, if we wanted, this is all politically coded. Like, I don't believe that most of our opponents, politically speaking, are good faith opponents. Like, they just want to call you an asshat. Like, they want to get mad at you, and like they haven't prepared. So in that sense, Tim, I agree with you. Like, no, I wouldn't want to help you do your research because you haven't shown yourself to be a good faith opponent to me.
Sure. Yeah. And the reason I bring up that the work example is what I've often, so I work with a lot of engineers also, and oftentimes I will preach things like go crowdsource opinions, beliefs, facts, stuff like that. Like, you have to go observe the situation, both for the process that you're impacting and the people you're impacting, to get their opinions, to have better engagement and buy-in in whatever you're trying to do. And the most often thing that I get pushback on is like, well, if I'm going to go talk to this person, they've got these harebrained ideas and they're all dumb. And I usually say something like, well, there's still things you can prove to be true or not true. And I think it's still worth the efforts that if somebody brings something up, that you go a little ways down that road with to show them exactly why it is or is not true. And what I found interesting is about 50% of the time, they're actually proven right. Like, it's so statistically, like, at least for me, I can't speak for all people in my situation. Like, it is very interesting to go down, like, the idea, that's why I brought it up, is like to go down the road of, can I help somebody who doesn't have the right language solve a problem that I would have just dismissed or argued against? I think is a worthwhile activity. But to your point, Mike, as long as they're good faith and they have that pool of shared meaning that you're.
Maybe it comes back to that then. Like if this is somebody who's willing to like let you pursue this problem with them. Like if they're willing to like, and if you sense that like they're a good faith opponent, but like they just don't have the language, which is like a real thing. Like this actually, I just was Googling Graham because I thought this structure is really interesting, but like, I wonder if there is a whole field of study that's rhetoric about how you persuade people and how people are persuaded. Like I need to study that like crazy, like that. But like, there are ways of thinking, and not everybody has a good vocabulary in that area, I guess, and so if you can help somebody level up in that area, like that is beneficial for any other argument you may have with that person in the future, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people at that level 1, level 2, like they're not there to argue, right? Like, I feel like those are the people that are like brainwashed, right?
Sure.
Like they're going to believe what they believe regardless of what you have to say, and it doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. That's the, like, my rational thought is not my motivation in those lower levels. Right. It is just like I am emotionally reacting to you. All right. Well, let's move on to the other kind of interesting model, or at least maybe it's not a model, but it's these 3 areas that a guy named Dan Shapiro had kind of pointed out. So here's a small framework. So Dan Shapiro is the head of Harvard's international negotiation program, who encourages us to avoid falling into what he calls the tribal trap by looking out for 3 barriers. So the 3 barriers are identity, appreciation, and affiliation. So I'll go through each of those. So identity is defined by your core values and beliefs, and being able to first name those and accept that when they are being challenged, you're going to have an emotional versus rational reaction. Kind of what you were saying just a minute ago, James. Right? And in the end, it's okay to leverage an emotional response as long as you are standing up for a core belief. So that is a good argument to have. The second one in the model is appreciation. And this gets at the core of what every human wants. What I always describe as every human wants to feel significant in some way, or at least heard. So it can be hard to appreciate the opposition, but one of the first things you can do to show appreciation is by listening, and listening critically, because this is where you can find common ground, or at least the value they are seeing. Second, in my own perspective on this, is you should appreciate that they're engaging in the same level of high stakes debate, which means they're also feeling the same level of stress you are. And that is worth a simple acknowledgement of their effort. And third is affiliation. And realistically, this is about our human-to-human connection. We talked about this a little bit when we explored Obama. Every politician puts on their political party hat in the chamber, but when the real work happens person to person, where they can play cards or smoke a cigar with someone who sits on the other side of the aisle. Once you strip away the formalities of how you should behave based on a mask you feel like you should wear, you can refocus on what I referred to earlier as avoiding the fool's choice. This is a whole lot easier when I do it in the absence of affiliation. The point of this simple framework was to avoid what Dan Shapiro called the tribal trap, where you see arguments as being predefined based on prescribed behavioral expectations. I think this was an excellent way to describe that the outcome, the progress, is what is the goal, and that maintaining the tribal scoreboard comes at the expense of progress. When progress is no longer made, we as humans tend to see scapegoats and perpetuate the tribal nature that Shapiro is warning us against. So I often equate this type of behavior to being a fan of some type of team. So I follow Crystal Palace in the Premier League, South London.
Nice.
Yeah. They're solidly in the middle of the rankings. Sometimes,
All right.
Sometimes higher or lower. Never relegated, though.
Oh, good for them.
I'll always root for them. And for the record, Brighton can shove it. They're the enemies. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What about Sunderland?
No. Brighton is the arch nemesis of Crystal Palace, James. So,
what is Brighton? Are they the bees?
What
is
Brighton? Was Brighton Hove Albion? So they're like this dove, like real crappy.
Oh, okay,
logo.
all right.
Okay. Can't
just
compete
with
against
FIFA.
Crystal Palace Eagles. That's right.
Yeah. With FIFA going on, I've been interested more in the Premier League lately.
Okay, well, come on over, man. We can watch.
Yeah.
They're usually on at about 6 a.m. on Saturday.
I'm gonna bring on my number 2 sarcasm and anger.
Yeah, but ultimately, life isn't the sports, right? Politicians can debate healthcare. You and your family are going to argue about where you should go on vacation or what to do with your tax returns, or debating a policy change at work that could ultimately impact people's autonomy. All of that needs some type of progress over some type of perfection. So, or what team that you're on. In the end, I think we've given some good advice for how to have more productive disagreements. But I want to wrap up with why. Arguing ultimately sucks. Like, nobody likes to argue. It's painful. Yet we know that good arguments are exactly what we need as a society. The Big Think YouTube channel interviewed Bo Seo in their episode titled Debate 101 with Harvard's former debate coach, Bo Seo. So Bo Seo also wrote a book titled Good Arguments. And when asked why he wrote the book, he responded with this. He said, "I feel the need to write good arguments because I think our public conversations are in a state of crisis. And that is the more visible crisis that we see where every disagreement in our media or in the public square is a source of division and pain. But it's also the hidden crisis of all the people who are driven away from participating in those conversations at all because they fear that it's going to be pointless, or it's going to be painful, and it's not going to be worth their time. Good arguments is not only what democracies have to do, it's what they on their best days aspire to be, which is a conversation between people who disagree, sometimes over irreconcilable things, to find areas of agreement, to spot points where they need to work across their differences to reach a better solution. One of the reasons why our arguments are so divisive and painful at present is that we've allowed the skills of disagreeing well to atrophy. We no longer view argument as a skill and as something to be worked at. Rather, we see it as something we jump into out of instinct or defensiveness. The bad arguments that result in turn decrease our confidence in what disagreements can do for us. And when we lack that faith in what arguments can do, we tend to approach them more defensively. We tend to go into it with a more defensive posture. And as a result, the lack of faith and lack of confidence tends to be self-reinforcing. And the result in cascade means that the quality of the conversation further degrades. And that was an intense quote.
Yeah.
Like, this guy nailed it, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's pretty
So,
good.
now to be honest, I haven't read his book, but I probably will at some point. In your guys' opinion, what is that case he's trying to make, and what would you do with like this kind of newfound perspective that he shared?
I think he's making the argument that like we shouldn't hide from hard things, from doing hard things. Like that's what I take from it, and I think that that's an accurate diagnosis of, well, you know, I don't know that I think in some aspects we're not having conversations. I think maybe more these days it's the part of his, I think I resonate more with the part of his quote where he was talking about, you know, not like having let the skills atrophy. Like we aren't good at arguing, and then that makes it harder to argue because it feels weird. And like, we know when we're grabbing for those zeros, ones, and twos, right? Like, and that's doesn't make you feel good. No. But the solution to that isn't just to paper over and agree with everybody on the one hand, right? You can't just be apolitical and say, I just accept everybody, because that's obviously not a thing that's good for anybody. But at the same time, like, we can't just keep having uninformed arguments. Like, we've got to work on those muscles, because good things actually come out of good arguments, you know? Like, you can make progress with an argument if you learn to do it well. But it's hard, which is why we don't.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead, Chase.
One of the things, and you touched on it, Mike, was like one of the things that I've learned a lot in reading some of Brene Brown's books, is that arguments and hard conversations they make you vulnerable, or they make you feel this horrible amount of being vulnerable. And that is hard, especially for men, I think. Right? I mean, I can say that for myself. Like, I don't like opening myself up to vulnerability ever. But in an argument, that's what you're doing. Right. So you, in Brene Brown's word, you have to be able to rumble with your vulnerability and sit in it and be okay with that and know that maybe your stance, maybe it's wrong, maybe it's right. And you need to sit with that and figure out a way to honestly have an argument that's healthy, for one, and that you are opening yourself up to other people's opinions. And in two, if you're ultimately holding something that is a core value of yours, don't let it go. And that's okay. And that's really hard, especially for men to do. And it's really hard with the manosphere out there and, you know, showing and telling men that vulnerability is weakness. And I think that that's something that us as and men, and me speaking for myself, I have to overcome and get better at doing, and being okay and sitting in that vulnerability and working through it.
Word.
Yeah.
James. Yeah. 100% agree with you guys. Okay, well, this episode has been a bit of a culmination of a few topics that we've discussed in the last kind of 6 months or so. So I see threads of the Barack Obama episode where he's navigating his time as a young senator, connecting with the episode, folks like Epictetus and Seneca and other Stoics who have beliefs that the difficult path is what ultimately defines you. You know, even touching on a bit of Frankel's logotherapy here and there, where I would ask you, is the anxiety of an unresolved conflict more or less painful than the debate it would take? What brings that debate meaning for you? What makes it worthwhile to have? I often tell new leaders that I coach a simple but stark reminder of their role, saying, conflict is never easy, but it is a skill you can practice and get better at. But it's never easy. Okay, guys. So got a couple things here at the end. Some of the more maybe challenging parts, or challenge some of the stuff we kind of went through today. So, okay, first question. Can or should you have a productive debate online? Is that possible?
I'm gonna say no.
I don't know that I have seen one. I don't think there's anything technically prohibiting that from being able to happen. It's just we've talked about this a lot in the past too. Like just because you can be anonymous online, like there are so many ways for it to go wrong that I think it just usually does.
Sure, right. Yeah.
I do think the places that I see this happening where I actually think it's worthwhile, and if I were in my 20s and had a bunch more time to do, like I would love to do, is like, I think these guys that just get on a Twitch live stream and just they'll put there's one guy from Minneapolis, and he'll put a prompt like up in the window or on the screen, and that's like his prompt for the day. And one of these other guys, like I think I mentioned Dean Withers, like I think his central prompt is always like, tell me why you're a Trump supporter, and then they just start from there. Like I do think people that have these live, maybe voice based, is different than having like a text based conversation, because you can you can boot somebody right now, like that guy's being an ass and only staying on level 0, like gone, let's have a better conversation with somebody else. Like I think that's the kind of places online that I've seen it most likely go in a sane path. But yeah, by and large, I think it's hard to have real conversations online.
No text based debates has been productive.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Well, that kind of brings into the next question here. So, like most of the topics today, there was some political undertone with some of this stuff. So, while we have a mostly two-party system in America, okay, how do you see the absence of good debate within a party causing just as much of a problem? So that's actually happening quite a bit right now.
In both.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Actually, so go ahead. We're all like,
I mean, I see it a lot in the party that I'm politically affiliated with, within the Dems party. But like, I don't know. I don't know what your guys' opinion is on that right now. Because we are between primaries and like midterm elections coming up here. So it is kind of hot and heated right now.
I think we're starting to see it a little on the other side, right? I think we can, I mean, I'll say that I'm a Democrat, right? And I think that we probably all align pretty closely, but I think as the more I pay attention to the news and different media outlets, I think we're seeing a little bit of that happening now in the Republican side, right? Like the true, like MAGAs are like, they're going to be what they are. But like now the Republicans are like, oh shit. Like Trump's not going to, he's not going to be here forever. And what the hell are we going to do next? I hope at least. And maybe I'm just seeing that because I want to see that, but at some point there has to be some feud that goes on that side that can start to bring that party back to earth, you know?
Yeah, I don't know that I see it yet, but I agree with you, James, that like that is the problem. This problem that I see in the Republican side, on the more right wing side of things, is that they need to be having this debate. They need the people who are sane Republicans to be saying, "That's not me, bro." Like, we need to have a discussion because that guy with the funky orange hair, doing. Yeah, I'm not even going to get too worked up, but that guy's not our guy. Like, we need to be having that debate, and they're not. Maybe they're starting to, and that would, because I would love to have a debate with a sane Republican, but for a very long time, like you've not been able to have that conversation on that side.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen some prominent Republican figures kind of start to fracture away. Well, I mean, we saw Marjorie Taylor Greene bailed, right? And
she's batshit crazy, though.
She's still batshit crazy. Yeah, I go literally preface whole umbrella. I'm sorry to you. It's like all batshit crazy. Okay? But there's even like some of the more prominent like podcasters, whether it's like Tucker Carlson, is very outspoken against Trump's policies. In fact, I think he just recently said he's leaving the Republican Party.
Really interesting.
And like no longer identifies as Republican. Or like at the other end of the extreme are folks like Candace Owens, right? Where it's like she's just gone off the rails completely. But it's right. But I think even I brought this up because within I keep going back to like the primary we had in the 9th here in Illinois, and like how heated it got between like the top, I don't know, 5 or 6 candidates. And now we're seeing it kind of play out. It's now primaries are kind of wrapping up for but whether it's like, I mean, we just all went through like the whole Graham Plattner situation where like it was one thing after another. And like, at what point do you start to draw the line with him until the point he bailed? But, but stuff like that, again, I'll go back to Israel-Gaza thing, has become basically a litmus test for whether or not you're going to make it in a lot of these, I'll say like ultra blue districts in the U.S. now. Like there are plenty of people out there that if you can't answer that question the right way, you will not win your primary now. And I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing.
Right. No, but this is part of why we need these arguments to happen, right? Like the problem is not having these arguments, and for so long, everybody just being kind of okay with letting Israel bomb the hell out of whoever they want to. And now, now people are starting to be like, hey, maybe we should question that. Like maybe it's politically viable for us to question the slaughter of thousands of innocent people. And that's a good thing. Like regardless, I don't know how we're going to solve it, but like we should be having those arguments. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think earlier I talked about like, again, people generalize at least like we need a bigger tent, right? Allow more people into the tent, but it's starting to become a situation now where it's like, well, within the tent, there are now factions, and those factions are not necessarily getting along. Very well. And maybe that's good and maybe it's bad, right? To a certain extent. I think if you're a Democratic voter or even a Republican voter, usually when you look at your ballot when it comes to election time, you're going to pick the person who's running for your party.
Yeah, usually.
For the most part, right? But I don't know how many people are listening to this podcast who don't identify with either party and will just, pick somebody at random. So
Right.
All right. So last question. So I want to kind of go back to that quote at the end from Boseo, where he said, good arguments is not only what democracies have to do, it's what they on their best days aspire to be. So I'll ask the question, what responsibility do men have as American citizens to support this rebranding of civic responsibility? James, you kind of hinted at this maybe a little bit ago.
Oh, I think it's time to wake up, right? Like, it's no longer just okay to let things go, you know, or brush things under the rug because, you know, I like that guy, but he did this, and that, which aren't great, but I still like what he does. Like, well, no, like, if you're a bad person, you're just a freaking bad person, and that needs to be okay. And I think, you know, like, I don't know, like, I think a lot of it is, it's just, we need to be okay with saying those things and standing up for what we believe in, right? We all have our own morals embedded in ourselves, right? And don't let those go because of what party they align with, right? It doesn't freaking matter, right? If someone is out trafficking child porn, I'm not fucking voting for him.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Right.
It doesn't, I don't care what your stance on Gaza is.
Yeah.
You're a bad person.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to say those things. Like, and I think that's the responsibility that we have as men, is that, one, stick with your morals. Don't let people that suck continue to suck. And two, like, maybe we just need to let women lead for a while. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know
what
what the right thing
responsibility
is.
do men have? Let the women lead.
Yeah. I don't know. And I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but I right now there's a lot of men that really suck.
Yeah. I mean, maybe even as just like a restart, could we just have like give us like a 10-year restart period? Just let women run it for a little while. Maybe after that, the men could come back and like,
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I think I would answer this one. Like, I would go back to, you know, we've talked a lot about like men and what society expects of men. And we've talked a lot in some of our earlier episodes, like about how that used to mean like you were the protector, the hunter gatherer, like you were, you know, there were all these things that meant like you had to, you know, you were the man that went out and killed the bear, you know, to bring it home or protect your family, whichever it be. And so if men really like to identify with that, right? Like that feels manly. That's what society expected of you. Well, that's not what society expects of you anymore. Like what society expects of you today is to be a positive functioning member of society. Like you are a member of this democracy, this republic. Like if you really resonated with going and killing that bear, like you should just as much resonate with being an active part of making your society a better place. It's the same thing. Like,
I think so. There's one big thing that jumps out at me, and it all comes back to like Shannon's family will often like get into like these somewhat heated political arguments over their group chat, right? And the mom, her stepmom, always chimes in. Would be like, no talking politics on it, you know. And I've come to the like. Part of me was like, yeah, it's probably not the right place, stuff like that. But then more recently, I've been like, no, that's bullshit. Somebody at one point decided they didn't want to have a productive debate with their family.
Yeah.
And that has caused so much more problems in my mind than anything else in the world, where it's like,
Sure.
When I'm going to blame the boomers because they're the generation I'm talking about here. Like when they decided that it was better to just have homeostasis and like a cordial environment.
Yeah.
And as a result, you couldn't have some type of debate. Like that's a problem now in my mind. So that just means that you're not willing to talk about that. And that's going back to that quote that it's what democracies do on their best, or that they aspire to be on their best days. Like at future episode or next episode, I'll talk a bit about some of the founding of America. And I didn't realize this, but democracy like American democracy was an experiment. Like I didn't understand how much of an experiment it was at that point. When you looked around the world, there were no democracies.
Right.
Right. And the idea of like a country by and for the people, right, was like that civic participation comes with discomfort.
Yep.
And that discomfort is ultimately the price we all pay to live not under a dictatorship or under a, like a king, essentially.
Right.
Yeah. So I think like the idea of somebody at some point in our generation's history said, no, we don't want to have arguments or political arguments at the dinner table. It's like, no, I'm done with that now. And like, I think that's an area where like, I think James, you've talked about this before about like, how do you show up as a good man for your daughters, right? And like, I think there's those types of things where it's like, there's these behaviors that have eroded over time, and it's causing harms to society that like we could be a better role model for the next generation. And I think this is one of those areas.
Dang,
absolutely
well said. You guys are on fire today, man. So good.
All right. Well, okay, bros. Well, shit. I'm sure somebody's going to have a problem with something I said. So probably has to do with Israel and Gaza.
Let's argue
I don't
about
know.
it.
It might have to do with boomers. I don't know.
It could have to do with boomers. So you owe me, boomers. So you know what? That's okay. I'm a flawed human being, willing to accept any reasonable argument. In the end, good argument is a skill that requires practice, emotional control, active listening, empathy, and articulate communication. You know what, bros? Those are all skills and attributes that I think make a great man. So next time you go out and you grab a drink with your bros or looking for something to talk about around the campfire, try a low-stakes debate. And take it one step further. Try a low-stakes debate with the intent of having your mind changed. You may not be successful, but you know what? You set an example that debate, arguments, or disagreements can ultimately be productive. Dang, man. Get out there and debate more. Be a nerd and ask some questions. Poke and prod. You never know what you might learn about yourself along the way. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Dang Man. You know the script. Subscribe to us on your favorite platform, write us a review, and share your favorite experiences with your friends. All of this helps us reach more men to grow our community.